Well, hi guys. I hope you're really doing great. I have spent a tremendous amount of time preparing this message for this evening, and I'm really praying that I can communicate it with the kind of vigor and intensity, yet grace and compassion that I've been studying the subject. I would say that it's taken me 10 years to arrive at this message, to be honest with you. And I say that 10 years of great deliberation and great experience. Um, And so I'm really asking my spirit to not respond in terms of a way that sounds justifying or in any way manipulative. I'm asking to communicate this in a way that anybody can learn from life. And what I'm going to talk to you about here is the whole battle, like wages around the world about the power of fear. And this is a very massive subject, so I'm going to bring it in because we're on part 3 of our relationship series. And a lot of relationships seem to be stimulated, motivated, inspired around fear, which is a very dynamic concept because nobody gets married for fear, right? No one gets into a relationship based upon fear. But for some reason, there seems to be this manipulative control of a thing called fear that is the laziest form of creating a reaction to get a quick response, but it doesn't really create the response we want. And so I'd like to dig into it to the subject tonight with you, and I hope I can do it in a relatively short period of time, although it probably honestly would take hours and hours to really get in details, and perhaps in the future we'll have a chance to do that. But there seems to be this epic war that rages between fear and love. And there seems to be a lot of debate over God's fear and God's love. It's a very dynamic thing. And most of you know my faith. You may not share the same faith, and that's totally fine by me, but let me be me and you be you, and we somewhere in the middle we can find grace and love for each other, right? So this debate seems to be going on about creating a response. When I used to coach baseball, there were two types of coaches. There were coaches that said, if you don't do what I say, you're going to run laps. And there were those that said, if you do what I teach, you're going to win a lot of games, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have ice cream afterwards. So there was this reward system and this love and this accomplishment and dream of doing things. And then there was this, if you don't do this, you're going to get punished. And we all know that in the child world, the uh, most effective, quick way of getting a result of our children is teaching them how to count to 3, right? Because I'm not going to get there. 1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, 3. Okay, that's it. And then they change their behavior, and all of a sudden you're back at it. So what worked there? Fear. Um, and we've learned that. Children from the very, very beginning stages realize they learn that if I cry, I get what I want, right? You have a baby and they cry, and that's how they say, feed me, change me, burp me, pick me up, I'm lost, I'm lonely. That seems to be the thing. And so as we grow up, we begin to realize that there's this heightened emotion that when we release it, we get a response that we're looking for. So we learn this innately very, very young. But you got to remember, those are babies in survival mode. Okay, as we mature, we're no longer in survival mode, right? We're somewhere between stability and surrender. We've moved from stability to success to significance to surrender. We're no longer in survival mode. We don't know, no, we no longer need to scream and cry and threaten and make a whole, embarrassing thing to get a reaction that we're looking for, because there are much more mature ways of handling things. But we figure that out. If you've studied any of Chopra or Miguel Ruiz, they talk about the idea of fear is anger. And anger is fear. That when you're angry, it's really because you're afraid of something. Typically, most anger comes from, I think people are thinking this about me, so I'm angry about that. Or that's something's going to happen, and so I'm getting mad about it. And it's a very interesting conversation. I'd like you to maybe dive in on your own. But I think that the problem is that when fear is deployed, there are really only a couple of options. All right, one is to completely blow it off, and that is very rare when fear comes at us. But if you can manage to blow it off and stay powerful, that would be the ultimate goal. But typically, 95% of people I know respond with fight, flight, or freeze. Right? That's usually what happens. And the problem with fight, flight, or freeze is I'll have the same end result. And what is that result? Disconnection. Now, we've been discussing for weeks now that the goal of any relationship, whether that be your spouse, whether that be with your business partners, be with your children, be people in your faith, your community, your church, or whatever, it's about connection, right? You're either pursuing connection or you're pursuing disconnection. I believe you're either pursuing love or you're pursuing fear. There's this epic battle raging between things. And so what people end to do is they use a threat. And when the threat level is high, then the love level is low. When anxiety increases, love decreases. We've talked about that. So the real question that we're going to try to dig into is, how are you going to respond when you experience pain? What are you going to do? And so if you look at life, you look at the world, and maybe it's times you've experienced pain or times that you've caused pain. There's most commonly three responses. One, run and hide. Two, get banished, right? Leave, don't ever come back here again. I don't want to ever see you again. Or submit complete control to the party, and you become completely in submission and controlled by them. And it seems as though a lot of organizations, a lot of families believe that there only gets to be one person in control here. And now that you've failed, it is no longer you. Now, there's a massive problem with this, okay? And the massive problem with this is that becomes your responsibility. If I'm the guilty person and you're the controlling person, that becomes your responsibility to fix my problem, and that is not the case. It is my responsibility to fix my problem. But if you take all the control and I have no control, then how in the heck am I going to fix my problem? Whatever the problem is that I've caused or changed or done. How am I going to do that if I'm banished? The problem with the banishment is it just sends the problem downhill. If the person just runs away, well, wherever you go, there you are, right? And you've left behind you a trail of broken bones and stories and issues and so forth. Banishment, if you give up complete control, well, then you're powerless, and how are you ever going to be strong, go out and fix the problem? We got a real issue here. And so we have to figure out, what are we going to do when this happens? Most people have learned controls like manipulation, right? You've heard of codependent, or you've heard of passive aggressive. Codependent is, I'll act a certain way as long as you act a certain way, and that's a lot of, okay, well, as long as you do what I say, then I'll be okay over here. But if you don't, then then this is going to come down. Or you might hear of the passive aggressive. Passive aggressive meaning, just do whatever you want, it's fine, but do what I want you to do. No. Whatever you want, as long as it's what I want. Well, no, that's fine. No, do what you want. That's fine. If that's what you want, it's just, And so we're supposed to be a mind reader to this passive-aggressive style, and it's really immature, but it's really common because nobody wants to step up and go fix challenges. And so what do? They remove freedoms. They withhold love. They play silent treatment games. They take away privileges. Parents do that. Companies do that. Organizations do that. Okay, well, you can no longer be in this committee, or you can no longer be part of this. And so they feel like these punishments will be enough. The NFL fines players big money if they celebrate in the end zone. So we're going to fix your behavior by fining you, right? Like a multi-millionaire really cares less about a $15,000 fine, for crying out loud. They get more play on the TV after doing the punishments than anything else. So what's reality is that punishment and fear don't work. Because even if you get the reaction you want, what you've gotten is false harmony. What you've gotten is a reaction that is not real. You've gotten, I'm going to give you what you want, so you take the pressure off of me. But meanwhile, I still have these underlying issues that I got to figure out. And so we as leaders that are impacting, directing people, we have got to learn to not deploy these tools of powerlessness on people around us who fail. Now, here's the issue. We talk about a culture of honor being so powerful, but a culture of honor is most important to be honored when you've been dishonored. And that's the problem, is we think a culture of honor so people act perfect, but the fact of the matter is people don't act perfect because they're people. And when there's problems and we thought the culture of honor, we wanted to go out and punish and banish, and we had these issues, and it doesn't work. It's never worked. It never will work. Right? So what are we going to do? We got to get to a place where we understand that love is far more powerful than fear. If we don't learn this, then a couple of big problems happen. One, we teach it to our kids, and that's an issue because then, if we parent our kids that way, then they'll grow up and they'll run their relationships that way. And I'm not going to lie, most of my life I ran out of fear. I was a punishment father. If you don't do what I'm saying, you're going to get spanked. You're going to get punished. You're going to, I used to give them wine sauce, a little vinegar. You're going to sip this if you keep whining. Yeah! Create this reaction. It was quick, it was to the point, and they changed. The problem was it created what all of these things create, and it created a disconnection. And the disconnection is small and small and small until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually there's what? A complete disconnect, a complete crack. And so that's where fear has the goal of disconnection and love has the goal of connection, right? We have to get to this stage where we understand this. So when we face pain, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to use distance? Are we going to use control? Are we going to use punishment or fear? I'm going to talk about some solutions on way to handle this in a little bit, but I want you to really dig in here because it feels natural to use these powerless tools: controlling, threatening, manipulation, removing freedom, banishment, punishment, fines. It feels natural. Why? Because that's what we grew up with. It's because that's what most of us know. It feels natural, and that's why it's easy to do. But you got to train yourself to respond versus react. There's a huge difference, right? You most times you can react without thinking, but you cannot respond without training. You have to understand this. You can react without thinking, but you cannot respond without training. You have got to dig in. You've got to train your mind to think, your will to choose, and your body to obey. So we have to come into this place where, okay, I'm going to think, and I'm going to make a choice. I got to train my mind to think, my will to choose. My will is I am not going to use anger. I am not going to use fear. I am not going to use banishment. I am not going to use these tools. I am going to dig in and find out what's going on. I think in the last subject we were talking about, we ask powerful questions to dig in and say, what is going on? We pump up a tire, we fill it full of air, we hold underwater, we look for the bubbles, and the bubbles tells us what? Where we can go to work. Where's the problem? Where's the issue? What's going on? What's happening inside of this individual that is making them act this way? Or what is going on inside of this individual that is giving them permission to act this way? I don't know if anything makes us do anything, but a lot of people say that. I guess I'd have to say is, what is it that's happened inside of you that you think it's okay for you to do the things you do? What happened in my life that gave me permission to act the ways that I acted? Whether that is my family, my friends, my wife, my kids, my business, whatever it was, myself. What was it that happened in my belief system? Right? This is why we've got to be powerful. This is why we've got to really dig in. If you want to develop any kind of a culture, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's sports. I don't care if it's ministry. I don't care if it's business. I don't care if it's family. I should say I don't care. I care about all those things, but it's irrelevant what the culture is. If you want to build a culture of honor, if you want to build a structure, and you're not focused on building a culture of honor, forget about it. I would say it's like trying to grow tulips in the desert. It's never going to happen. Trying to freeze ice in the Mojave Desert. It's just not going to happen during the daytime, okay? You have to focus on creating an environment and a culture for people to grow and people to prosper, right? So we have got to get to this point. When things go cray-cray, we have to learn to respond versus react. So the first thing we got to do is we got to partner with the spirit of love. Well, this requires you to become powerful. What does that mean? That means I need to dig into my internal covenant. My internal covenant is you matter. Yes, you may have screwed up. Yes, this has gone on. Yes, this is horrible. Yes, it's happened for the 14th time. But you matter to me. And our friendship is not for sale. It is not discretionary. It is not disposable, and you will not be banished. We are going to find out what's going on here. I am going to dig in. We're going to ask powerful questions. I'm not going to fix your problem, but I'm going to ask you the questions so we can dig in to find out what the heck's going on. How do you reboot the brain so that you live differently as you move forward? Because banishment only sends a problem to a new neighborhood. Withholding love only makes someone feel powerless, so they hang their head and then they can't fix anything. This is about learning to help people understand choice, right? And for those of you that have read the Bible, God gave us in the very beginning choice between two trees, right? And Adam made the wrong choice, and evidently ever since then, we've been living in rebellion and making wrong choices. But that's just reality. We make wrong choices, make right choices. What you have to understand, and I'm going to just ask you to give me permission to say this, but the Bible reveals to us a God that is in relentless pursuit of a relationship with you. He is absolutely consumed by wanting to know you. So from my perspective, okay, again, that's all it is, on earth as in heaven. So what should be my goal? My goal should be an absolute consumption, a desire, a drive for a relationship with the broken, with those that have fallen down and those that have hurt and those that have made mistakes, to let grace be at a higher priority than law, that let love be the bond, not fear, to be connecting versus disconnecting. It's this urban myth that so many preachers have wanted to shove down my throat for years, that you should fear God, that there's such a thing as a healthy fear. And I'm not going to debate philosophy with people. All I'm just saying is that it's very challenging to have a relationship with something or someone that you fear. I couldn't have a relationship probably with a 1,000-pound gorilla or a rattlesnake. And I certainly couldn't have a relationship with someone that I was afraid of. And if God's word says perfect love casts out fear, that fear and love cannot coexist, I think those are pretty clear to me. But I'm trying not to be preachy with you, because I know we don't all share the same faith. But for those of you who've been back and forth and teeter-tottering on this God thing, I want you to know that God is interested in you knowing how much He loves you, not how much you need to fear Him. He's more interested in your relationship than He is your obedience, because He knows that more than likely your body will obey your heart, right? It's your mind to think, your will to choose, and your body to obey. To obey what? To obey your heart. What's your heart? Your heart's full of love. So your body responds and obeys what? Love. Relationship. Agreed? Someone you intensely love. Someone or something that you just intensely are just, wow. Could you ever imagine hurting them? Could you ever imagine doing something awful to them? Could you ever imagine? No way. Does it happen? Never intentionally. But unintentional things could happen, but never intentionally. And that's my point. God's not interested in you fearing Him. He's interested in you loving Him. So He is interested in repairing this disconnection. It is very important that you understand that. It's very important that you come to that place. And this is our goal, guys, to repair, to restore. Right? If we're going to walk around the rest of our life angry and mad and everybody that's offended us, well, that's going to be a miserable life, because there may be a day when that's all that's left around you. Because people will disappoint you. We will be constantly dealing with this. You have to understand, for some reason, well, let's put it this way. God is not afraid of our sin, but we seem to be. God is not afraid. He already dealt with our stuff. But for some reason, we feel like we have a trump over the top of this, that we have some kind of a higher priority to create more of a system than God's already dealt with. That there's some kind of a man-made system. Now, I would guess that's what you call the prison system. But that's typically for, pretty awful crimes, not like relationship things or what have you, right? I'm not trying to undervalue situational things, because there are very painful things that happen in our world. But my point is that there's a reason why it says love conquers all things. That the fear of pain should no longer control you. I want you to make a declaration that from this point, fear and pain no longer control you. I want you to declare that you will live your life based upon love, that you will be committed to create a connection, not a disconnection. And I know it's going to take some time. There may be some unrepairable things in your mind. But if it's truly going to be on earth as in heaven, then we need to have that as our intent. If we're going to walk with this belief system, then we need to try to find a way to get there. I'm not saying that you need to restore them to a full thing. I'm saying we need to move in that direction. Fear and love have opposite agendas. Understanding that. Right? They have opposite agendas. And I think fear comes from the enemy of life. And I think control comes from the enemy of life. That's why God gave us free will. So I want you to train yourself to respond, not react. You can react without training, but you cannot respond without training. You'll usually react without thinking. And so next time you are confronted with an opportunity to be angry or bitter or upset, I want you to dig into love. And I want you to be committed to protecting the relationship. Things are going to happen. People are going to disappoint you. Stuff's going to happen. You need to try to find a way to respond by thinking, making a willful choice to choose, and then ask your body to obey your heart, which is coveted in love. So therefore, everything becomes an opportunity for promotion. Everything becomes an opportunity to be greater and better. We all know who makes the best Alcoholics Anonymous counselors, recovered alcoholics. We know who helps abuse victims, those that have been abused. We know who helps people through loss and trauma and divorce, those that have been through loss and trauma and divorce. We know that. But if we're going to beat down every situation that's ever happened, then where are we going to find the next generation of leaders to help those that are hurting? I'm asking you to be part of the healing force of this world. I'm asking you to partner with love. I'm asking you to commit to connection over disconnection and recognize the value of lifelong friendships, because you walk in the understanding that my goal is not guilt and condemnation. My goal is grace and restoration, because I know if you can go through a revelation, which is a transformation of how we think, then you begin to build a new foundation based on the footings of humility. Been there, done that, understand it, felt the pain. I want to make sure nobody ever goes through this issue again. And if they do go through this issue, I want to make sure that they find a way to be great again. Because the problem is, if you fail and it's final, then the enemy wins twice. Made you do it, or was there when you did it, and two, made sure you never got back up again. He's trying to create weakness in your testimony and powerlessness in your presence. And we are not going to allow these things to happen if we partner with the spirit of love. I hope that makes sense. That was a bit of a firestorm. I might encourage you to listen to it a couple of times. I feel like God did a good work here, and I really hope it has an impact in your life. I really want you to know it is not your job to control anybody. It is your job to control you. If you think it's your job to control people, then your belief system says, if you're not doing what I say you should be doing, then I am going to introduce pain and punishment until you do what I say. And the pain and punishment could be withdrawal of love, silent treatment, fines, penalties, punishment, banishment, threatening, manipulation, you name it. Those are all tools of powerlessness, tools of fear, tools of condemnation, and ultimately lead to the biggest problem, and that is disconnection. If you do not know that you are loved from the source, then why would you ever want to change? My deep desire to change in my life came from my desire to know my God loves me, that my family loves me, and I desperately want them to know that I love them. And that's all it's about. Love. Love, love, love. Anyways, guys, God bless you. I hope it helps. I enjoyed being with you for 25 minutes. Stay tuned for part 2, and we'll keep it rolling. Man, let's just make an impact in the world. I so desperately want you to know how. All right.